An interesting question just on social media. Simple question been asked. Ask it to you, Alex. Does David de Gea go down as a Manchester United legend? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Name on the Trophy podcast, the Manchester United show where we talk usually all things transfers, especially at this time of the year in the summer. My name's Dominic Booth and delighted to be joined as always by Alex Wylie. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm
How are you
good, Dom.
going?
How
I
are
was
you?
going to say then.
Yeah, I'm good, Gray.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just getting over being 30. It's just hitting me hard at the
Yeah,
moment.
I'm impressed you managed to get your computer screen working today.
Yeah, I had to ask one of the youngsters to get it go for me. Um, yeah, we're going to talk about David de Gea today. It's going to be pretty much focused all on him and obviously his exit from the club in
Mm.
today's podcast and how United have handled it, what United are going to do next, and sort of the general reaction to De Gea's departure, which I think maybe we should start on because actually I'm quite surprised by the reaction to it. I mean, it's been a good few days now since it's all been confirmed, and we suspected even before that De Gea wasn't going to be staying, given how long United took to handle his contract situation. But the reaction was actually, I think, a little bit more muted than I would have expected. Alex, this is a guy who has been at United for 12 years, record clean sheets, player of the year multiple times.
Mm.
Whatever you think about him in the last couple of years, and we'll definitely get into that. I kind of thought that there might be more of an outcry because De Gea still had a lot of backers among the United fans. Even those backers haven't been that vocal or sad that he's left.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, really. I think we've got to a point where even those that were in De Gea's corner have started to concede that he wasn't the man for the job. It was clear that from a distribution perspective, he was never the man. He was never the goalkeeper who was good enough to do that. But the De Gea loyalists would point to his shot stopping, and they would say, "Well, yeah, maybe you don't have a brilliant ball player, but what you do have is a brilliant shot stopper." And given the several high-profile mistakes he made in that department towards the end of the season, I think even that was difficult to pin up as being good enough for United. So I think the truth is almost the entire fan base probably thinks it's the right decision. And as we said before, I don't know why it took United, and I'm going to group Ten Hag into that criticism. I don't know why it took them so long to come to that conclusion because I think most others had.
Was it that United were worried about upsetting the fan base or were worried about upsetting De Gea in not making the announcement? It feels like cowardice to me. They didn't make the announcement when he was actually at the club. They waited for his contract to expire and we are all sitting around waiting for an announcement. I mean,
Yeah,
we know United don't announce things quickly. It took them 2 days to announce Mason Mount after he'd been in the training ground wearing a red shirt, where everyone pretty much knew he was going to move to United. And the
yeah.
official announcement came, the last possible moment that it could come. And same with De Gea. I mean,
I'm
I
not sure
felt
it's cowardice.
I think it's disrespectful,
It's
certainly
disrespectful.
towards De Gea. Think what you want about him. He deserved a lot better than that. They could have made a decision 2 months ago, and he could have had a send off at Old Trafford, and everyone would have applauded and said you've been a good servant to the club.
Yeah, I think decision is the key word really. I think the club is indecisive. From what you hear regarding the contract situation, the fact that one was offered and then taken away and then a new one was offered, it never felt like Ten Hag and United made a decision about what they actually wanted. I think the initial decision was to stick with De Gea for another year on reduced terms. And at some point towards the end of the season, I think it went from that to well, if we are going to keep him, he'll need to be our number two. And so we need to reduce terms even further. And now, obviously, that's not to De Gea's liking, and he's turned it down. But I go back to what I said at the start. There needed to be a clear decision made as to what you were going to do with De Gea. We were speaking 7, 8 months ago. We knew he wasn't good enough. You could tell watching game in, game out that it just wasn't working. And I said at the start of this window that I thought bringing in someone for De Gea was not only a priority but the main priority ahead of a striker, ahead of a centre midfielder. I thought a goalkeeper was the main priority, and I just do not understand why United didn't know which way they wanted to go with it, and I don't understand why it only took until the end of the season to make that decision. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's been a victim of that indecision within the club, and he hasn't had the farewell that that many others, probably people who've done a lot less for United, have had. That's the sort of sad reality of it. And those cryptic posts that he was putting on social media in the last week or two before the decision is like, well, clearly he's still not hearing anything from the club. Clearly, there's still nothing concrete in terms of an offer, a plan, anything like that. I mean, it's absolutely baffling.
I mean, could you give me some insight into what those emojis actually meant? Because they went completely over my head.
There was a story, wasn't there? An official story from De Gea's sort of representative and camp about those stories, and basically saying, oh, they weren't aimed at the club, they were aimed at the situation, which I read as the same thing. The club are in charge of the situation. Yeah, I think I'm no expert on those emojis either, but they spoke of a player who's completely in the dark, befuddled by the actions of his club, and probably very, very frustrated. Clearly De Gea, every time you saw De Gea interviewed in the last few years, no matter what he'd done, good or bad, he had supreme confidence in himself, and he felt like he could still be United's number one goalkeeper. Pretty much every manager that we've had in the last few years, bar Ten Hag, has been absolutely certain on that as well. So yeah, it's an unraveling, really. It's probably overdue. In my mind, I thought that in the COVID years, De Gea was on the decline, and we should have, United should have been reflecting what a lot of the fans were saying then, and reflecting how goalkeeping was developing on a global level with other goalkeepers coming in around the league. That was when De Gea's star started to fall for me.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We used to, in my old job, collect goalkeeping data, and it was more subjective than a lot of other data providers. It was rating things in terms of the type of shot, type of save that a goalkeeper was making, when they were coming for crosses. It wasn't just did they intercept the cross, did they claim it, did they punch it? And it was basically taking goalkeeping stats to another level. And that's the first time I saw De Gea through almost like a different set of eyes, because his shot stopping at that point, this is around 2018, 2019, was very good, still very good. But everything else to his game was one of, if not the worst in the Premier League. So his cross handling, for example, looking at the quantity and the quality of the crosses he was facing, he was, I believe, rock bottom for 2 of the 3 seasons that we collected data on. This year, just looking at crosses intercepted just as a percentage, he's in the bottom 9%. He was never this modern day goalkeeper. And I think the managers that we've had at United have never needed him to be that. Solskjaer never needed him to be that. I don't think Mourinho did. They just wanted someone who just stopped shots. And Ten Hag is the first manager who's come in and sees the goalkeeper as an extension of the outfield, an extension of how you build up the play, and it bleeds through the rest of the team. And it's
that was massively overdue, wasn't it? That someone came in to do that.
I mean, we've had Edison at Manchester City completely changing the game for goalkeepers. Alisson at Liverpool. The elite clubs need a goalkeeper that can do that. And Ten Hag has asked our goalkeepers to do that. And I said at the start of the season, De Gea is going to make several high-profile errors because he is so not used to doing this style of play, and that's what's happened. And I think we've been long overdue a change. I'd also like to say that playing for United for 12 years, almost every single game, is a hell of an achievement. And it's a real shame that he didn't get a send off, because whilst I think we're right to move him on and we're right to bring in someone like Anana, he deserved a proper send off to Gea, because he's been like 12 years is phenomenal. Really is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It is a shame, and United in the future might want to call back De Gea as an ambassador or a legend or something like that. I wonder how that
I'm
will go
sure they
down.
will.
Yeah, I wonder how well that would be received by the man himself. This is probably a good point to bring in some stats. The Athletics' Adam Crafton did a piece about De Gea. The cruel truth was the headline. I think that's fair. We've said things along those lines on this podcast, and one of the most interesting parts of it was the stats that he brought up about De Gea's prevented goals, basically the number of goals that De Gea was expected to prevent using expected goals. And in the 17-18 season, he prevented 13.7 goals, which is basically the best goalkeeping season in Premier League history on that metric. Obviously, he got the United Player of the Year award that year. I remember, I can remember him being absolutely fantastic. His saves, especially with his feet, especially from close range, unbelievable. But 18-19 to 2023, in those 5 seasons, he was below average, basically conceding slightly more than you would expect him to, or around about the same. So,
yeah,
a massive regression to the mean. Yeah, definitely to the mean, but a regression nonetheless. And United need a keeper who, is making a difference. And De Gea just stopped making that difference.
Yeah, like you said, 17-18, De Gea, you could have made a case for De Gea being the best shot stopper in world football. And if you're the best shot stopper in world football and you're saving 14 goals above average for an average goalkeeper in the league, it kind of doesn't matter if you're not a great distributor or cross handler. If you're that good, that elite at the most important part of goalkeeping, it doesn't matter. And to be fair to De Gea, even in the run up to that 17-18 season, he was saving more shots than expected for almost every single year, I believe. Even
Most
at
years,
his
yeah.
very first season, when he got a lot of critiques, his shot stopping was still very good. He was, I mean, when he was skinnier than he is now, his ability to move quickly and save shots with reflexes was almost unmatched. But since that 17-18 season, and since we offered him that humongous contract, like you said, it dropped off a cliff. And for almost half a decade now, that's half a decade's worth of data. So a fairly reliable amount. We're looking at a guy who's more or less an average shot stopper. And if you're an average shot stopper, a bad cross handler, and a below average distributor, you shouldn't be anywhere near an elite club. And you certainly shouldn't be the highest paid goalkeeper in the world by about £100,000 a week.
Yeah.
It's been long overdue. It really has.
Yeah, and that's the business side of it, isn't it? The wages and what it would have taken to renew De Gea's contract. And like you say, the stats which United should have been looking at long ago, did tell them to make the brutal decision to let him go. It's just the handling that we're unhappy about. Anyone can see the number of rickets that he was making last season. Like you say, right from the off, that second game against Brentford, when Ten Hag was asking him to play a certain way, that was the warning sign. United could have been making decision, back then. Most players, they make the decision on a contract extension a year before it's due to expire. But United clearly just were, shuffling their feet on this one for ages and ages and ages. De Gea, between, I think it was that first season, he actually prevented 7.69 goals, when actually his second best of any season until that 13.7 in 17-18 campaign. In the 2022-23 campaign, minus 0.55. So De Gea was conceding only half a goal more than you expect him to, but that's still
Yeah.
not a Manchester United goalkeeper.
No, it's average. It's average. It's not a bad performance. Although it sounds negative, half a goal in the grand scheme of things for the entire season is not bad. It's just average. Like
And
you
even his
said,
worst one
not good
was
enough for
the
United.
COVID year, 2021, minus 1.92. So about minus two goals even in that season, which is supposedly his worst one. And that was the year actually where United almost had the balls to change him and had Dean Henderson in the side. And
Yeah.
then it basically didn't work out because Henderson got ill and Solskjaer wasn't ruthless enough to make a call. And Solskjaer seemed to be backing Henderson and then went back on that, annoyed Henderson.
Yeah.
Now Henderson's probably going to go on a permanent deal this summer. So that's two goalkeepers out the door in one summer.
Well, you say that. I read this morning that if we fail to get the Onana deal over the line, that Henderson's being seen as a realistic number one option, which is remarkable, really.
Yeah, I kind of think it's wise for United. United shouldn't be selling Henderson until Onana is signed. That's just
100%.
business. That's just business sense.
Yeah,
There's
we
no
need
way they should be doing that.
no, but there's quite a few players we need to move on this window to get the deals done that we need to get done. If we're going to bring a striker in and Onana, we have to make sales. We have to. We have to, whether that's Fred or McTominay or Henderson or Elanga, I saw mentioned the other day. United
Wire
need to
maybe.
start selling players. You're looking at Manchester City and they're selling youth players for 15 million. They sold a youth player to Southampton yesterday for 15 million. And we don't seem to be able to shift players that have played consistently for the first team for any sort of money. I don't understand why that's taking so long because it's a priority. It's a priority for us to actually get business done. We have to sell some players. And I'm not hearing anything really concrete other than rumors.
No, it's odd. It's very odd. I mean, you will hear rumors, and it's often difficult to pick through the rumors when you're talking about United. But also, I'm hearing nothing. Talk about hearing nothing. I'm hearing nothing about where De Gea's off to. There hasn't been. I think we've said this before on the podcast, but there hasn't been over the last month or two any clubs really linked with De Gea. In the last week or two, Saudi Arabia inevitably has been touted, and Fenerbahce seems to be one that's not going away either. Say what you want about the caliber of those clubs, I think that says a lot about De Gea's level now. It's not the cream of the crop with respect.
No.
Bidding for him
No.
or trying to sign him on a free.
Yeah,
But
I want. Sorry, I
so
wonder if because of the lack of clarity coming out of United, whether that put off clubs, and perhaps that's why there aren't a huge amount of clubs right now. Maybe in a month or so, we'll start seeing a few stick their heads up. But Al Nassr, they've got a transfer ban. They actually
yeah,
can't bring anybody in because of I think the Ahmed Musa deal. They didn't pay the add-ons, so they've been banned. That'll probably only last like a couple of weeks, but for now, Al Nassr is off the table for De Gea.
yeah. Well, someone will come on the table. And no doubt the wage that he was on at United um, will not be on the table. I mean, I can't
No,
see that unless it is Saudi Arabia, and we've
nah,
seen the figures have been touted for Jordan Henderson for a move there. So you never know.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, if De Gea manages to secure another nearly 400k a week contract,
All power to him. I
well,
can't blame him.
maybe there's another Ed Woodward bumbling his way at another club somewhere in Saudi Arabia who will give it the go ahead. But I think most directors of football are not that stupid and frivolous.
We'll see. We'll see. Interesting question just on social media. Simple question been asked. Ask it to you, Alex. Does David De Gea go down as a Manchester United legend?
Yeah, I think so. Um, I think anyone who has played consistently for the club for that long has to be considered one. I mean, I was going to go as far as to say anyone who's been at the club that long, but I was quickly reminded about Phil
Phil
Jones,
Jones.
and I feel pretty uneasy about calling him a legend. But no, I think David de Gea, for about half of his time at United, was one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He was very rarely injured. He played week in, week out for 12 years. I think no matter what you think about him for the last couple of years, I think you still have to take a step back and think, yeah, that is someone who I would consider a legend. I don't know about you, but I would.
I think he is. Yeah, I don't think he is in Schmeichel territory if we're talking best United goalkeeper of all
Mm.
time, which I think would have to be Schmeichel. Best Premier League goalkeeper, no. But yeah, I think all things considered, sort of bailing United out of the mire at a really tough time for the club after Ferguson's retirement. I mean, he was pretty much standing on his own at times,
Mm.
especially after Rooney went and that team broke apart. He was the last bastion, the last line of defense, quite literally, um, and probably kept United in the top four and in the hunt for FA Cups and Europa Leagues and all those sort of trophies that they're competing for, rather than being a side that were finishing seventh, eighth, and not winning anything. United did stay in touch in those years, and I think a lot of that you have to thank De Gea for.
That Mourinho season when we finished second, so much of that, like we
We
shouldn't have
weren't
been anywhere.
United
We
were
shouldn't
not
have
any
been
good
anywhere
that
near.
year.
No, we should have conceded, like you said, 13, 14 more goals than we actually did. And Mourinho, I know he talks about it as one of his greatest successes, but the truth is, 10 of those players were not really doing their job. And it was a team that shouldn't have even gotten the Champions League spots, if I'm honest. But then if you've got a goalkeeper who is saving you 13 or 14 goals in a season, that's like a goal every 3 games. That's phenomenal. And he deserves a lot of credit that year. He was great. He really was.
Yeah, De Gea needs that little placard on his wall instead of Mourinho with that achievement coming second behind
Yeah.
City. It's mostly De Gea, so
Yeah, well, I remember the years after that year, there was talk about United making a title charge. And I thought, unless De Gea, so De Gea's just had more or less the best shot stopping season in history since we started collecting this data. The odds of De Gea, no matter how good or bad you think he is, the odds of him just doing that again for another year is so unlikely. And even if that drops off a little bit, we're going to be nowhere near second place, let alone first. So it wasn't really a surprise that the next year unraveled. And I don't blame De
no.
Gea for that. It was just a lot of that performance that year was due to him. So there was such small margins.
I'll never forget his performance. I think it was against Liverpool when Sterling was playing for Liverpool
Right.
in a game against them, and he saved about, I think he saved about 7 or 8 shots just from Sterling.
Mm,
I think United might have won 2-1 or something, but didn't play well at all. And
mm.
De Gea was basically superhuman. In some of his performances away at Arsenal, I remember a load of
Yeah.
saves,
Yeah.
just a
Alexis does
couple of
that double
unbelievable
save.
ones. Yeah, of Sanchez. Yeah,
Yeah, Sanchez. That was just before I think he signed for us, wasn't it? It's like,
yeah.
yeah. He had that shot and then it spilled out and then he managed to smother the second one. Look, that De Gea on his day, from a shot stopping perspective, De Gea on his day was elite. But the truth is, as a distributor and a cross handler, he's never been even close to elite. And yeah, now we've got a goalkeeper that's not elite at any of those things.
Well, United have barely got a goalkeeper, so
Yeah.
we'll talk about Onana if and when that gets done or gets closer. We've spoken about him a little bit before, and how he's very much in juxtaposition to what De Gea offers in terms of his confidence and coming off the line, distribution. I'm excited
Mm.
to see if he does sign for United. I think it would be a good addition.
Mm.
Otherwise, if United don't get Onana, the De Gea shambles looks even more shambolic, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think what I'm going back to the very start of the podcast, the indecisiveness, that's what I find so inexcusable. Because had you made this decision months ago, you could have then done the groundwork to get a goalkeeper done quickly as soon as the window opened. And it feels like now we're playing catch up. And I don't want to criticize United's recruitment too much because I feel like I do it every week, but almost all the players we seem to be signing have either played under Ten Hag or played in the Eredivisie at some point, which does make you think we've got this huge recruitment department. What names are we not bringing up any other names other than people that Ten Hag knows? Which again is the same mistakes we've always made of just relying on the manager. I just find it very frustrating. I think Onana's great. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Onana's a very good goalkeeper, but just going after over players that the manager knows very well is symptomatic of a problem, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't fill me with confidence in the club behind Ten Hag. If Ten Hag's staying for years and years, like Fergie did, then that's
Yeah,
great. But
it doesn't happen
there's
anymore.
every chance that he's not here for that much of a long haul, and then we're saddled with a load of Dutch-based players that the next manager probably doesn't want. So yeah,
Yeah, it's like we're still in that mindset of, oh, we just need to find the next Fergie. Fergies don't grow on trees. I think because United we had Matt Busby for such a long period of time, and then we've had Fergie for such a long period of time. It's almost tricked us into thinking that we're this special club and that's how we are. But the truth is, managers come and go at best every 2 or 3 years. You should not be basing your whole recruitment strategy on what the manager wants.
it's the
It needs to
manager's job to
be,
fit in with the players there
yeah,
rather than the
yeah.
players being signed just for the manager.
He should be involved. He should 100% be involved. Like at the start and the end of those processes, he should be the guy who gives the green light. But I really think the club should be the one that is driving the list generation at least to then talk the manager through with it. At the moment, it feels like we're just sitting down with Ten Hag and saying, "What do you want?" And he's going, "Oh, well, Andre
Just
Onana was very good for
sift
me."
through the Eredivisie in about 2019, and then that's where we'll sign the players from.
Yeah, and the other goalkeeper we got linked with, the final goalkeeper, who again, Bilo, he's had a good season, good goalkeeper, but once again, another player from the Eredivisie. I just, it's just odd. It's odd that we're not learning lessons.
Let's see if United do learn any lessons from the David de Gea saga. We're back for another transfer special, Alex. I'm hoping that we're going to have Onana, Højlund, whoever else to talk about.
We'll see.
It fills me with dread at the moment that it's beyond, it's mid-July and these things are still in the pipeline. Pre-season has started. I'm getting nervous. That signing to
Yeah.
be forthcoming.
Well, I read a piece on Højlund today. I think we tried to do a part exchange with players to try and get it over the line. Atlanta won £85 million.
Yeah, that keeps being said, that figure. Yeah, it's mad.
85 million for a player that scored 1 in 3 in Serie A in his first ever season in Serie A is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know where they've got that number from.
Haaland cost 50.
Yeah, well, obviously he had a release
Stop the
clause.
world, I want to get off.
But he did have a release clause, so that was more a case of just convincing him to come to your club. But yeah, the Kolo Muani and Højlund fees are ridiculous. And I said it last time, but Openda sounds like he's going to Leipzig for 40 or 50. And his stats, he's like 2 in 3, I think, last season, as well as getting assists. And he's young. He's younger than Kolo Muani. We didn't seem to be remotely interested in that. We're getting linked with the players that have huge price tags. I mean, this will just finish with us getting Vlahovic for like 80 million, and I'll tear my hair out because I don't think he's worth anywhere
I look forward
close
to that podcast though. That's gonna be a cracker.
Yeah, I think I'll like spend about 2 hours swearing because that is
Sorry,
one player I do not understand why
Harry
everyone's so
Kane
keen
on the
on.
last day of the window, and we all breathe a massive sigh of relief. That's the utopia, I reckon, for United fans.
Yeah, I can't.
Not going to happen though. But
I don't think we had the money to do that, and Spurs. I just cannot see Spurs selling domestically. I can't see it.
no, Daniel Levy will be forever the thorn in Manchester United's side, either taking their money or not letting have his players. Well,
Yeah.
if he one of the two.
Hmm.
Right, that's pretty much all we got time for then. Thanks, Alex, for joining me on this one. Save_sports for all of Alex's stats, insights, and yeah, keep following and subscribing and liking this podcast to hear more. And we'll be back again very soon. Thanks very much.